And we are live. Hi, my name is Tyrese Salmon.
Elijah Jones.
This is episode 25, I believe. Episode 25.
You know what else is 25?
It's 25.
Me, sir. Me.
Ah,
How
yeah, yeah.
are
You
you,
look you
Tyrese? How
look
are you doing?
27. You look
Huh?
28.
You said
Look,
what?
you look close to your 30s, but cool.
You know what? It's the beard. The beard and the
Yes, it
hair
is.
now. Give a brother a certain maturity. You know what I'm saying? So I take it. I take it.
How you doing, man?
Can't complain, man. I'm doing okay. It's another beautiful Sunday after a muggy Saturday. It's
Yeah.
beautiful outside. It's not too hot. Can't complain. I woke up. My family's fine. Everything's good on this side. How are you, brother?
Everything's going this side, man. Gonna have a small little cookout and eat some hamburgers, eat some ribs on the grill. So I can't complain at all either. Watch a little basketball as well.
Listen, sports are back.
Yes, it
Not
is.
all, but sports are back.
Yeah, especially UFC, especially MMA.
UFC. It's interesting because I believe that's what we're here to talk about today.
Yes.
Should I do it? It's up to you. Let me know.
You know what? You'll always do this, and you always do it the best. So I'll let you carry this on.
No, sir. Compliments will get you everywhere, Tyrese. Remember that. Last night at the UFC, I believe the Apex Center in Las Vegas, UFC Las Vegas 8 was on the boards. We had Anthony Lionheart Smith versus Alexander Rakic. We had what will be a battle at 205 commenced last night
Hmm.
with the vacant 205 belt gone and John Jones have vacated his title and moving to heavyweight. We now have an open slot for one fighter to obtain that gold. This fight last night ended with an unanimous decision, with Alexander Rakic proving
Yep.
the better fighter of the night. Tyrese, let's talk about this.
Yeah. So also, thank you to the viewer that's watching. Please comment in the live chat. Tell us what you think about the UFC last night.
Yeah.
Um, man, it's interesting, right? Because I wasn't really blown away by Rancic's performance. Um,
It's fair.
he called for a title shot afterwards, beating Anthony Smith. I really didn't think that was title shot worthy, but I mean, there's not really a lot of, contenders you could say that could say that they're right in line for a title shot. Maybe
Yeah.
Glover Teixeira and Santos if that fight happens, and I think it's October that they're looking at that. But yeah, I thought one thing that spoke out to me was Rancic is big. He's a
He's a
big,
big 205er.
yeah, he's a big 205er, and
He's not a
yeah,
middleweight. He's not a middleweight.
yeah, and I also got to remind myself that Anthony Smith was a middleweight at one point. You
Anthony
know,
Smith, I mean, he makes 205 pretty well. I think the
yeah,
lack of weight cutting adds to his diverse tool set in terms of the grappling and the
right.
striking. So I think that's what works for him at 205. But Rakic is a big. When I looked at the size difference, I was like, oh, okay, so he looks physically bigger than him,
Especially on the ground, especially when he's on the ground, he's holding Anthony Smith, which was pretty much predominantly the whole entire fight.
which is
Um,
interesting.
yeah, he was able
I'm
to
gonna try
hold.
joining. I'm sorry, Terry. So I'm just gonna join through my computer again. Keep talking.
Yeah, yeah. Anthony Smith was. Let me see if I can switch you over. There you go. Yeah,
There we are.
Anthony Smith was
My bad for me.
a lot smaller compared to Rancic in terms of just on the ground. He was he was able to control Anthony Smith from side control and pretty much did a great job. I thought one thing he did do a good job with is the leg kicks, which
Yeah.
I think 2020 we're starting to see a lot more fights decided off of leg kicks than ever before.
Tyrese, I want to say this. We talk about this theory on the show after 25 episodes. We've talked about this that the evolution of MMA you see it almost every 5 years. You see it almost every 5 years with the evolution of the game, right? You see new tactics being explored. You don't get a lot of people, the dirty boxing and the clinch and things like that. You see a lot more foot stomping coming back to date, right?
Yeah,
Within the last couple of years. In the last 2 years, you've seen leg kicks, calf kicks, that lower calf kick, that lower inside kick, those have become predominant. Like you said, 2020 has been the year of the calf kick, the lower calf, the chopping at the legs. That is a brilliant strategy. We've had multiple TKO victories over that, actually.
yeah,
And I want to say we're on our 7th month of the year going on. Sorry, we're on our 8th month of the year going into our 9th. I bet you
yeah.
we get a few more before the year's over. It's such a very useful tool because if you lock if you lock those nerves on the side of the leg, you can't do anything. You
Yeah,
can't do much.
You know, I believe I don't know. I think Keith Lee, when we had him on the show before, I think he said something about how to stop those. But I honestly I can't think of how to stop those instead of you just have to move your leg at the right time. Well, a lot of people pick up their leg at the right moment to try to block the low
Yeah.
calf kick. But it's really not really. I haven't seen somebody really defensively block that shot.
I think the best thing you could do is to check it, right? To check low calf kick, to check those kicks. But in the event of doing that, you're giving up something too, because checking that kick exposes, you're turning your shin towards
Right.
that kick. So shin to foot, foot's going to lose. Shin to shin, whoever shin is harder is going to win, right? We've seen this with Anderson Silva and Chris Weidman, where Chris Weidman was able to check a kick that Anderson Silva threw, and Anderson Silva ended up breaking his leg. Right, he ended up breaking
Right.
his tibia. So
Right.
there's a defense for it, but the question becomes: can you block? Can you check every single one?
Right.
That's what the question isn't as much as can you defend, because I think for most things it's a pretty good defense. But you're right. You bring a bigger question is how many can you truly take, right? Because
Yeah.
it becomes a point where it seems like the movement is like you start taking a few, you eat a few, right? Then that damage accumulates to the point where you're not able to defend as well. You're defending, but you don't defend as well. And then at some point your leg gives out. And that seems to be the trend, right?
Yeah.
So again, it's more of how and when they're throwing. The timing is what's getting people, not just throwing it in competition. But again, Ratchet did a very good job with the leg kicks and chopping away Anthony Smith. I'm a guy who uses like his who likes to use his legs for throwing body kicks or throwing
Yeah.
teep kicks, because he's a lankier fighter at 205, right? He's a tall guy, lanky fighter. He's not super big in terms of muscle, but he wears a 205 pretty well.
Yes, he
But
does.
the uniqueness about him is that he is this kind of lankier grappler, and he can strike. But what Rakic is able to do, he's able to neutralize the grappling that Anthony Smith is pretty much known for, right? We know that Anthony Smith is, I think his striking is good, but when he gets into these striking exchanges and things like that, either he hurts you or he strikes with you to the point where he can get you down and then submit you. That's
Right.
that's what his strengths have been up to this far. We could look at the Gustafson fight as an example. We can look at the Ozdemir fight as an example, right? So we know that he does that. But what Ratchis was able to show is that he actually can hang with these guys on the ground. And
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, that's it. That's it.
No, I was actually going to ask you this. What do you think about Rancic staying on the ground with Smith? Because I thought with the leg kick, him hurting him early on, dropping him early on with it, I thought he would have stayed up with Smith, and he decided to stay on the ground with him, which, he won decisively. He won, without really any much problems, except for Anthony Smith landing a right hand.
That one right hand was pretty good.
But other than that, it was pretty much all Rancic. I'm a little bit surprised that he decided to stay on the ground with Smith. Especially when you want to make your name known in the light heavyweight division. I don't know. I don't know if staying on the ground and getting a decision against Smith really was the way to go about it.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, because with the vacant, let's just look at the facts.
Yeah.
Belt is vacated. You have two guys fighting within the next 2 months, right? You have Dominic Reyes versus Polish Power.
This
You
month,
have that.
actually.
So because literally September's one day away. So you have it this month, right? On a 6 week, and within 6 weeks from, because when it was announced, you have that fight being made. Now there's no clear cut contender. So let's just say you get a spectacular finish over a guy who's fought for the belt before.
Yeah.
That could ease. I see what you're saying, right? And having that game plan, I don't know if we'll see how it hurts him in the long run, right? I think what the approach for him, at least, or for his camp, was for this fight was establishing that he can do what a lot of these guys probably didn't think he could. And to be honest with you, I thought in this matchup alone, I thought that Anthony Smith might have had the edge because of the grappling.
Yes,
I thought that was going to be the definitive factor, because I think Anthony Smith's grappling and mixing and grappling and striking is what has gotten him to the top of the top. I think it's always been one of his best suits, and you've never seen. Just haven't seen Ratchet tested in that way. So I agree with what you're saying. Is that's not what you would have wanted to do. But I also think it cements him as somebody who you can't say he doesn't have those set of skills, because he went toe to toe. He took the fight to the ground, to somewhere where a lot of people thought he would drown. So in doing that also puts people on notice in the division. Like, well, if I can't beat him on the ground and he's the superior striker, what do I really have for him?
Yeah, I agree. I think part of that also is he was on top, which again we talk about how big he is compared to
Big,
and able
big.
to able to control
I didn't think he was that big.
him. I thought about it a little bit, but I didn't think it was going to be that much of an issue. I thought Anthony Smith was going to piece him up and be able to take him down to the ground and wear on him because it was only a 3 round fight. So I thought Smith would have the cardio and
Did
the
you know
ability
that?
to wear on him a little bit. What
Did you know that going into the fight was? I thought it was 5.
I knew it was 3 rounds.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know it was 3 rounds. I think what happened was the UFC wanted a 5 round fight, and then I want to say Ariel Helwani reported this. The UFC wanted a 3 round fight, but Anthony Smith wanted a 5 round fight. Anthony Smith wanted more money. UFC decided to stick with a 3 round fight.
Oh,
So
hey, it's
I
it's
mean,
either get paid your normal rate, which is for him, hopefully is pretty good,
yeah,
and or get more money, which is fair.
yeah. I honestly didn't see how this fight was going to go all 5 rounds, or if they decide to go that well. I think Anthony Smith's leg was done, and Rancic was just able to control the whole entire fight. So it really was not much of a fight when you think about it.
No, it again, and I want to test this. Ratchik did a really good job controlling him on the ground, but in terms of like actual like wrestling encounters, it wasn't as if it was like a full on wrestling match, right? I think it was just the control. The
Right,
control was just the more impressive part from because now we know that he has that in his tool set.
right, right. So let me ask you this: who do you think is next for Ratchet? I don't. I'll go with this. I don't think he deserves a title shot next.
Oh
Even though
God, no.
he's a fresh name, he'd be Anthony Smith.
Yeah, but I just want to say this: light heavyweight is a wild west right now. If we're being honest.
Very true. That's true. But who do you think Ratchet fights next?
So, with Dominic Reyes fighting Jan Blachowicz and Thiago Santos most likely entangled with Glover Teixeira, which will probably be the next fight, depending on whether or not if you anyone else, you could see Ratchet going against a guy like Jerry Prochazka. You could see him maybe fighting the winner of. I don't know if he'll fight the winner of Ryan Spann versus Johnny Walker. I think the best fight for him to get his name back up there is to either fight Jerry Prochazka or I'm pretty sure he lost to Volkan Ozdemir, no?
Um, that's a good question. I thought he beat Volkan Ozdemir, but I could check.
I got you
I
right
think
now.
he lost. I think he lost to Volkan
Yeah.
Ozdemir.
I mean, Volkan Ozdemir is coming off a loss to Jerry Prochazka, and he's coming up. So you could run that back. That was in 2019. So running back a year. I mean, it's hard, right? With Corey Anderson also gone, I think this would have been a perfect time for Corey Anderson to advocate for more of a title shot. So I would have loved to have seen Corey Anderson versus a guy like Alexander Rakic. But Corey Anderson's a Bellator, and hats off to you, brother. Hope you do well. But bottom line is Jerry Prochazka or Ozdemir look like the two possible fights for him.
You know what? Also, so by the way, Glover Teixeira and Thiago Santos is in like 2 weeks. So September 12th.
What?
September 12th.
That's so soon, dude. The year's
Yeah.
almost over,
So it's gonna happen before the Dominic Reyes and
which is good.
John Moore fight, which is interesting. So that fight's coming up soon. So I mean, you could, if they want to, they could do racing versus the winner of Thiago or the loser of Thiago Santos and Glover Teixeira. And have the winner of Glover Teixeira versus Thiago Santos fight the next for the title.
Yeah.
You got the winner of John versus Dominic Reyes. I would love to see Jerry Prochazka fight Anthony Smith. Actually,
It's an interesting matchup.
I think that'd be a great fight.
I think with Anthony Smith on a 2-fight losing streak, I'm curious. I don't think he's out at all. Just want to get that out there. I don't think he's out at all. But I think his next few matchups are going to be crucial to him staying in that top title picture, right? Because Anthony Smith right now is number 5, and if he loses to Jerry Prochazka, he'd be out, and they would switch. They're right next to each other. So that fight does also make sense. But his next few fights are going to be crucial to his career because if he loses he loses to these next. He's lost to, let's say, he's lost to Glover Teixeira. He hasn't fought Thiago Santos yet. He hasn't fought Dominic Reyes yet. He hasn't fought Jan Blachowicz. But those 3 will probably be at the top for a little bit longer. And then when you look at it, he's beaten Volkan Ozdemir, but he's lost to Alexander Rakic. So I think he's gonna stay in that top 5 to 7 range for a little bit. But I don't know if he's gonna be able to get past that range because of the guys he's lost to. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's going to be an issue.
There's some people on the come too. We got, like I keep praising Jamal Hill on the come up. We have Ryan Spann on the come up. We have if Johnny Walker could turn it around, maybe there's that. There's
Hey,
other
Johnny Walker's young enough. He's young enough. Misha
there's,
Misha Serkinov.
good point.
A lot of people. There's a lot of 205ers, right? Again, with John Jones being out of the division, it leaves so much more room for anyone to just show up, right? This is what the wild wild west of the light heavyweight division is going to be, and I'm okay with that. I don't know about you, but I'm more than fine with that because furthering the light heavyweight division creates a narrative of that John Jones left to let these guys clear it first, but John Jones can always come back.
Yeah, and I also think, we're not even thinking about the possibility of, first, we also got the possibility of Anthony Rumble Johnson,
And Gustafson. Gustafson can come back too.
Who's coming back, who will possibly come back. Middleweights, who maybe think the weight cut is too much, like a Luke Rockhold may reconsider a light heavyweight run again.
It's possible. It's all possible.
Like with John Jones out of the equation, now is the time for anybody that, when the big dog is out of the division, now it's time for, anybody that was trying to make their way in to do it now. And I think, there's going to be a lot of contenders coming up at the light heavyweight division. And I think UFC is going to bring in more talent as well.
You know what it is? With John Jones gone, like we talked about this off camera, with John Jones gone, there's no apex. There's no apex predator in that division. There's no guy to say like, oh, well, I beat all the top guys. And the top guys have beat, John Jones is the top, right? He beat all the top 5 guys, top 10 guys pretty much at that time. And then those top 10 guys beat the people below them. So there really couldn't be much more movement because everyone has already fought everyone at that time.
Right.
But then going, now we got matchups. Matchups make the division and progress the division. So again, with a win by Ratchet, I do see bright things for him. I think he can fight for the belt. I think I would love to see him eventually fight the winner of Dominic Reyes and Polish Power. If either of them make up a really good matchup for him, and then that's it. And then Smith, I think just take a little more time off and then get back to the drawing board. I don't think his plans don't work. I just think he needs to not reinvent himself, if I would say. What do you think? How do you feel about his style? Right, because it's growing. MMA is growing, and his style doesn't necessarily always work out for him.
I think his style is fine. I just think that I'd be interested to see if there was any injuries going into his fights or, the damage he accumulated. Because remember, he's coming off the Global Teixeira fight, we took a lot of damage from.
That was a rough one.
Yeah, he took a lot of damage with this one. I don't know if the training was an issue with, how his body felt. And then also, I go back and think about, and this seems like it. To me, it means something to me where, he had the home invasion. He took the home invasion situation. And the mentality of, I wonder where his mentality is at. Because I remember going to the Global Teixeira fight, he was like, after going through that, nothing scares me, or I'm going to go in there and do what I want to do because I just feel freer. And in this fight, I heard almost a similar same thing.
That narrative, yep. I read that narrative, yeah.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm a little worried about his mentality right now, or how he's feeling mentally. I wonder if that obviously is going to affect you. I wonder if it's still affecting him, and then also having the time to fight as well. There's a lot of issues that I'm thinking.
Agreed. A lot of people don't look at the full scope of what the fighter may be going through because, again, we're still in the time of COVID, right? The man recently had a home invasion within the last year, which you don't predict things like that, so that's the even worse part. You don't know how that's going to affect you, but the effect on your family dynamic. You know what I mean? So again, I think his style is good, but the issue with it is I hope he not issue with the style, sorry, just issue with him right now is I want him to take a little more time off.
Yes.
A little more time off. I want him to be an analyst too. He's a good analyst. A lot of people don't realize. I think he's a phenomenal analyst. I like to see him a little bit more on there. I don't want him to take too much time off because he's still a top 5 contender. I think at any given moment he can beat a lot of people. He's shown he's got the toughness, he's got the heart. I think he's a top 5 guy for a reason. But I do want him to take a little time off and sort whatever he has to sort out if that's what's bothering him.
And honestly, you know what? Him taking time off, I think he could also try commentating. I would love to see him commentate a little bit too. Not just be an analyst, but also commentate, see how he does in that range.
Yeah.
But I also think that with him taking some time off, he could kind of see the scope of the land and see, okay, how light heavyweight division is going, and kind of pick it apart a little bit. Because I think honestly, he has the tools to be a champion. I think he
He
he, he does almost everything well. I just want to see him take the time off, be back mentally, physically,
yeah.
and by then next year, let's say he's able to see, okay, what fights I could take to get towards the title. I think his name and who he is can lend himself getting quicker to a title fight than most people might with
I
division.
think UFC's bought into his stock. I
Yes.
think UFC is bought into stock, and I have too, because I originally wasn't the biggest fan of him, but in seeing him beat Hector Lombard, I was like, wow, okay, so Hector Lombard is somebody you can't take lightly. You know what I mean? At middleweight, the man was starching people. The man starched people at middleweight. So again, with that fight being said, and him fighting Jones, and him not doing terrible in the fight, I'm a fan now. I think he has a stock, and again, he should invest in that time off, see what happens, and reassess.
Yeah.
Moving on, Tyrese.
Moving
Did you have
on.
any? Did you have anything else to say or no?
No, I just really nothing really enough to say about the Renchick fight. I think Renchick should fight
For Shaka?
either Poshaka or the loser of Thiago Santos and Glover.
Agreed.
And I think Anthony Smith should take some time off.
Yeah.
But moving on to the co-main event, this is another point where we got to think about what's next for, a legend in the sport.
Yes.
Neil
Robbie.
Magny.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Neil Magny defeats Robbie Lawler by the end of the decision, pretty convincingly. It wasn't really. I really think there was anything that Robbie Lawler did to even
Warren.
second guess whether he won a round or anything like that. It was pretty much dominant for Neil Magny.
I think we talked about this before the fight, where we obviously get into our arguments and have a good time.
Yeah.
But we talked at when we after argument, and having a good conversation about MMA fighters. We talked about what really would come of this fight. We talked about the strengths of Neil Magny and putting that pace on people, which is the biggest issue. And we wondered what Robbie Lawler would, is Robbie Lawler still capable of the old ruthless himself? And I think he is to a degree, but I think Neil Magny is just too much for him. I think that the pace that he put on him was just a little bit much, with mixing in the wrestling and then grappling a little bit. It was hard for Robbie to really find his range early on. And so I think that's what contributed. But I don't think, again, this is Robbie's maybe third loss in a row. I don't think he's out for the count, but I think they might, consider which fights get you most money, or, reassess right now is what we need to do for Robbie Lawler.
I agree with everything you just said. I'm going to hit on that in a second. Let me ask you this. I was confused by him grappling. I think that's a great change of plans from him, standing up and wanted to fight and wanted to get into brawls or exchanges.
Yeah.
But I was surprised to him to grapple Neil Magny early on, because me and you talked about off air. Neil Magny's a slow starter. So I thought the pressure and the striking of Robbie Lawler would get him around early on. If not, possibly, maybe hurt Neil Magny or set something up later on in the rounds. And he decided to grapple, and I was confused by it, because for a person that's a slow starter, if you're going to grapple with him, it kind of helps Neil Magny a little bit, because he's able to find himself in the fight.
Now, what's interesting is I remember the fight of Neil Magny versus Rafael dos Anjos. I think this is Rafael dos Anjos' maybe second or first fight at welterweight. And with Neil Magny being a slow start, Neil Magny got submitted by arm triangle. Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
In the first round. In the first round, he got submitted by arm triangle. So I don't know what the game plan was going into this fight. You're right. It was a little weird. I was a little thrown off by the fact that he did wrestle him to begin with so early too, especially with the guy who tends to be grappling heavy, getting those clinch position against the cage, or getting you in a position where he can range shots. So that was interesting, right? But I don't know. When in wrestling and seeing those exchanges and trying to do that, it became a point where it was like, wait, so even if you do secure this, what was it gonna, like, you know what I mean? Like, what was the outcome? What did you want? Because it seemed like Neil Magny's ready for that.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's the point you're trying to make. It's like, why would you wrestle right away with someone who slow starts and builds up through wrestling?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what I was confused about that too. I had thought by the second round he would start to maybe open up a little bit more, but he didn't. And so, Magny was prepared. He had a great game plan.
But it was also for me. It was like once Neil Magny knew he could take Robbie Lawler down,
That was it.
it was it. Like as soon as the first round where Robbie Lawler tried to go for a takedown and tried to grapple with Neil Magny, Neil Magny was able to stuff it and counter and get Robbie Lawler back to the cage. He was able to take him down. It seemed from there it was Neil Magny's path to victory from there forward because he knew he could take Robbie Lawler down.
I agree.
And like for me, it was I welcome change. I welcome Robbie Lawler trying different things and trying to implement his wrestling and stuff into his fight. But I was really confused with I just thought he was gonna go out there and strike with Neil Magny and then maybe possibly work towards the grappling.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people don't give him that. Not that they don't give Magny his credit. Magny's a big guy for welterweight too.
Yeah,
A lot of people don't realize he's like maybe like 6'2", 6'3". His reach, it's a little hard for a lot of people to get inside, and the people who have been able to beat him, they've had great game plans. But I think what can attest this to is one, the early on wrestling for Robbie was, I don't know if that was like the best decision to make, but Robbie's a wrestler. Robbie can wrestle. That's not an issue, right? I think we were seeing an evolution in Neil Magny's game. I think he's finally hitting his stride and becoming comfortable in what he does best, which is push the pace, use his cardio, and use his wrestling to wear his fighters down.
Agree.
And I think we're seeing maturity more on part with Neil Magny, and I think he's getting into his prime and getting more comfortable with implementing his game plan as opposed to trying to just feel out a fight and strike. I think with the maturity that we're seeing from Magny, he's making those he's made those corrections that he's had in the past, and that he's as his growth as a fighter has been pretty good. So I think I'd like to eventually leading this to another topic, I'd like to see him fight for eventually on that path to fight for the belt. I think it's possible in his case.
Yeah, I think Neil Magny is turning a corner. I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember his last loss. What's his last loss against RDA? I know too.
I think his last loss, because remember, in the between the time of fighting and the time that he fought Dos Anjos, he also got suspension. So his last loss was Santiago Ponzinibbio, and that was when Ponzinibbio was the next biggest thing.
Yeah.
And that was a close fight. That was a really close fight, and then he got knocked out.
Yeah. I really want to see. Here's the thing. Do I think Neil Magny needs to fight somebody in the top 10 right now? No.
It long run it would help, but I get what you're saying. Right now, nah.
Because I think of Jeff Neal. I think
that fight needs to happen.
I think of Sean Brady, who also won this card, who I think deserves somebody in the top 15. Martin Vittori, he's the middleweight, right?
Yeah, he's middleweight.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but I'm just thinking of these guys that are outside the rankings that are really, really good, and that possibly deserve somebody within the top 15 spot that's not really getting those opportunities.
Yeah, I agree.
Jeff Neal cannot get any traction going at all, and he's the guy that he has all the tools, it seems like, to be a contender in the division. He has not been able to get any fights.
No, it's interesting, right? Because he started as tough, and he's come a long way. He's a UFC vet, but he's not that old. Right. You know what I mean? So that's the interesting part. I think he's finally finding his prime, in my opinion.
Yeah, I know he had a battle with COVID this year too, so hopefully he's doing a lot better. But what it sounds like, he called out Neil Magny in the post.
Yeah, in the post fight, because that was the fight that was supposed to happen. He had what's it called? Neil Magny. He's like, "I'll see you soon." Now, if I'm Neil Magny, and I want to get to the belt as soon as possible, with no fight for a guy like Michael Chiesa, that would be an interesting fight to make.
Yeah,
that would be right. We have two guys who are finally earning their, finally getting that ground in their division, right? We have Neil Magny, who's finally maturing as a fighter. Not to say that he was immature, but he's gaining from that experience and everything like that. Oh, Levy, what's up, man? I appreciate you for watching. Tyrese, this is my coworker Levy, who's also an MMA fighter. He's phenomenal. He has a YouTube channel. He searches these crazy ghost places, abandoned hospitals, things like that. So if we could also give him a shout out, and I will always repost his stuff. We'll do that later. But yes, Levy, I appreciate you for watching. But back to Neil Magny. Magny is finally getting the maturity in his foot in welterweight division. I think he's making strides. And Chiesa finally bumped up from lightweight from a huge cut. I mean, the guy doesn't look the same, in my opinion, Tyrese. Does he look the same to you? He does not look the same.
No, he doesn't.
Huge.
And is RDA is back in lightweight. So that welterweight division is kind of changing a little bit because Damian Maia's on his way out. He was ranked. RDA at one point was ranked. I don't know where Anthony Pettis is at right now.
15. Pettis is 15, and RDA is somewhere around that 8 to 9 spot.
You get what I'm saying? But they're not competing
as well. Yeah. And then you want to know something? Here's the kicker: Nate Diaz is also on that list too. So that's the interesting part. You don't have these active welterweights competing as welterweights, right? You have these lightweights competing as welterweights and are linked but aren't competing. So that's the biggest issue. But back to Neil Magny, solid win for him. I think if I'm Neil Magny's corner, I'm saying, hey, look, I put my time in. I've done everything. If I'm his management, I'm saying we push for that Chiesa fight. I say we push for it, but I'm not upset with the Jeff Neal fight either. I think that fight would solidify, give me someone top 10 now.
And let me ask you this about, look, we got Neil Magny. Neil Magny, I think Michael Chiesa, that fight makes so much sense. But also, if Jeff Neal is ready.
If he's ready, he's ready.
I would love to see that fight. Or Jeff Neal versus a Vicente Luque. That'd be cool, too. That'd be great, too. That is, to me personally, that's the main event fight for me. I think those two are a main event fight, and I think that would just have them two, the highlights of their fights, them knocking people out, just have them on a poster, put their knockout records together, and just put it in. I think that could do big business in a fight night, fight night card. But for Robbie Lawler, honestly, I've been thinking about this. He's not done to me. I don't think he's done.
In no way, shape, or form.
But I think it's going to be time to start considering what's next. And I would love to see Robbie Lawler get some of these legend fights. I would love to see him get like a fight against an Anthony Pettis or a fight against. They already did it already, but Donald Cerrone would have been great right now if they didn't fought already before.
To run that back, that'd have been a good fight just for the fans.
Yeah. Fuck. I'm trying to think of lightweights that can probably go to welterweight.
The thing is, there's not many. There's not many because the gap between 155 and 170 is only 15 pounds, but the 55ers walk around at 170, or 180. The 170ers generally walk around 190 to 200.
Right.
And that's the big issue.
You're not gonna see a middleweight come down to welterweight, I don't think.
You know who you saw? Zach Otto. He fought on the card. He used to be at welterweight. He cut a lot of weight, and he looked a little bit. His physique looked a little different, but he was healthier at middleweight, so that's why he's back up. That cut from middleweight to welterweight, I think, stops a lot of people. Miki Patolo, he's someone who was on this card. He's a former welterweight. He started as a welterweight, and he started middleweight, then went to welterweight for 2 fights. He had success here, and then lost a fight, and then went back up to middleweight because he found that it was draining him. So you're right. Like the people from middleweight hardly go down unless it's absolutely, unless they don't, unless like Kelvin Gastelum started at welterweight, but he had heart issues making the weight, so he moved back up. So that again, the gap gets a little funny between a lightweight, heavyweight, and middleweight, right? Because those are 3 different body types, in my opinion.
Yeah,
those tend to be 3 very different body types.
See, the thing is, I want to fight for Robbie Lawler because Robbie Lawler to me is a legend. I think to you also he's a legend as well. And
instant Hall of Famer for what he did to the whole Hendricks thing and how he ruled for a little bit, and the Rory fight. Come on.
Somebody made the joke to say he made Roy McDonald find Jesus.
Find Jesus. Yo. And remember, Rory was my boy at the time. He's still my boy, but Rory was it, and he stopped Rory. I was like, wow. Like I remember
Roy McDonald find God.
Yo. What did you do? What did you hit him with that made him like? That's the crazy part. So I think right now, Robbie just take some time off. And he's another one. Take some time off. He's been taking a lot of time off between fights, so I don't know if that's contributing or hurting him. But now you're right. This needs to be the moment where we're not doing this forever. What gets me to a point where I'm secure to move on to what's next?
I agree, and you put up middleweight. Do you think Robbie Lawler can have some fights at middleweight?
Robbie Lawler was middleweight when he was younger, but that's, you know what I mean. When you're younger, it's easy to put on muscle and things like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the big name fights for Robbie Lawler. That's what we did for Don Cerrone. That's what we did for
There aren't any.
And they
There
Diaz. Like that.
Yeah,
There wasn't somebody between that because lightweight he's already fought Don Cerrone. He's not fighting a Diaz brother. Anthony Pettis maybe that fight.
That's a fight. Yeah. I think the Pettis fight. You know what? If we're gonna find a route for Robbie Lawler, the Pettis fight makes sense. I'll go Pettis. I'll go Pettis before I go anything.
Yeah, I think that makes. I thought if he would have beat Neil Manny, I thought him versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. That would have. We haven't got that fight. That would have been great. You know what? If Tyron Woodley loses, no, not even that. That wouldn't even make sense because Tyron Woodley is fighting Kobe Covington.
Yeah, well, if Tyron Woodley loses, right, the option to fight Robbie, we said it will be there. The option, I don't know if it'll happen, but the option
he's gonna still be in the top 10.
Yeah. And in a win over someone like Tyron would prove beneficial beat the guy who knocked you out. So it's the possibilities are slim for Robbie, but his next few, I don't want to say his next few months depend on how they stay the division, but they low key kind of depend on what happens next with the few fights coming up. That kind of really, it really depends on those top people, as well as if Anthony Pettis would sign to fight him, because Anthony Pettis is not looking to fight anybody anymore, like just anybody. He wants top names to get the money.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it now. Like the more you think about it, the more you just feel like damn. Because they're really like for someone like Robbie Lawler, who is a legend, who should be treated as such. And if he's going on his way out, he should get the big fights, the big money fights.
But you're looking at a guy who's been around since the start of Joe Rogan having hair.
Yeah.
Since Joe Rogan having hair. I mean, that's early 2000s, man. This is a guy who's been fighting. Like, I don't want to say he's done it all, because I don't know if he's done it all, but realistically, because of he's become champion. He's beat the top guys at that time. The only other fight that I would love to see, maybe. Ooh, that brings it a good point. Carlos Condit. They could run that back. Carlos Condit, if he wins his next fight against Court McGee, he could run it back. I could see that as a really good top name with Condit and Lawler, either one of them going out on their high horse.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I was thinking more of like Anthony Pettis' name. I'm not no disrespect to Carlos Condit, but Anthony Pettis' name that still pops, right? That still pops.
Only man signed by Wheaties in UFC.
I was looking for somebody like that for Robbie Lawler, because I think he deserves that type of attraction. Like Anthony Pettis got that. Don Cerrone got that. That he don't have to fight a title contender. He can fight a big name and still have the attention drawn to him. I just wish there was something like that for Robbie Lawler too. You know what I mean?
Fair. Yeah, but overall, I don't think this is the end of Robbie, and I think Neil Magny is making good strides.
No, maybe 2 more years for Robbie Lawler. Honestly, he's 38 now. Maybe he could do 2 more years. Yeah. Maybe if his contract wasn't worked out, maybe Bellator.
Hey man, listen, get the money, get the bag.
Yeah, all about it. Were there any other fights on this card, or any fighter on this card that stuck out to you?
I want to make a few shout outs, right? Alexa Grasso moved up in weight last night, and I thought she did a phenomenal job with her boxing. I think she moved up from strawweight to bantamweight, a women's bantamweight last night, and I thought she had a really good performance. Her boxing was crisp. She was able to utilize her boxing very well. And I was really impressed by her, right? So I think she's someone to look out for in that bantamweight division, because she could be
strawweight to flyweight.
Strawweight to flyweight. That's what it is. Bantamweight is 135. She went to 125. That's what it is. We're seeing a lot of people who was making that strawweight limit bump up now, right? So I think that kind of presents a lot more. Again, this division is now growing. I think that presents a lot more options for Valentina Shevchenko. Valentina. Yeah, I'm bugging. Valentina Shevchenko. That was one fight that I really was impressed by. And you want to speak to your fights?
Yeah, I thought Sean Brady, who again we talk about his praise a
Yeah.
lot, and you know what, inside baseball, I tried getting an interview with Sean Brady and trying to work that out, and he just haven't been able to connect. Or I don't know his management team,
Yeah.
but he's somebody I look at welterweight where I think he has a ton of potential, and he's undefeated right now, and I think he, you know what stuck out to me in this fight was his IQ.
Yeah.
His IQ to not just use his striking but also translate to his wrestling. I thought his stance switch was good too.
I'll say this: that brother's jujitsu is unparalleled, right?
Yeah,
Because he noticed that the striking was even. The striking was, if you really looked at it, like it seemed like he was landing more leg kicks, but then he gets cracked with the right hand by
right.
Christian Aguilera. He gets cracked by a right hand. And he's like, whoa, wait a minute, right? And then he shoots for a takedown, gets him against the cage, and gets a takedown. Opens up the second round with a takedown. I was like, wow.
Yeah,
He was like, and it was just interesting because he was like, once he knew he had to take the jujitsu's there. Once he knew he had that, got it again. I was like, damn, he's good.
yeah. He's somebody I'm super high on. I think he deserves a top 15 opponent next. I'm really high on Sean Brady. Ever since I've seen his debut fight in the UFC.
Shout out to him. He got a one-arm guillotine too. Not a very
Yeah,
easy.
and
That's a very hard technique for some people. He's a black belt, which makes sense, but it's a
from the
hard
mount
technique to
position.
learn. From the mount. Had his
Yeah,
had his wrist under his hip in order to keep that, keep it tight instead of having to grab the other hand. Had the other hand based and just pressed his hip into it. And I thought
yeah,
the technique alone for me, I'm a jiu-jitsu guy. Technique alone was phenomenal. So
yeah.
I'm excited for Sean Brady's fights now.
Me too. Again, I'm looking forward to seeing him fight. Hopefully, somebody in the top 15. Another person that had an impressive performance. He was on the contender series this year.
Mm-hmm.
He beat Mike. Yeah,
Maki, the guy I brought up earlier, Maki
yes,
Patolo, and Pakasagane.
yes.
That's
He had
it.
an
That's
impressive
it.
performance. I know he's still starting out. He's still getting his feet under him. But he looked really good.
And that was at middleweight too, actually, I
Yeah,
believe. That
yeah,
was at middleweight. Which is interesting is Maki Patolo is a very promising prospect from Hawaii.
yeah,
I think what a lot of people start to notice, if you can weather that first storm, that first round with him, and because he throws bombs, the man
yeah.
throws bombs. If you can kind of defensively get out of those situations, or at least strike and hit him in those exchanges, you can beat him, and that's what we saw last night.
Yeah, and I thought Impa was able to, he looked like he had that. The one that was defensively, I thought, there was some things where he would dip his head low, and that could create a problem. That could create problems. But I
Yeah,
thought his timing for his counters were really good. And I'm interested to see what he does next. Another person,
agreed.
another person to me on the card was it's two people. Two people. They fought each other, which I think
Yeah.
Ricardo Lamas versus
Bill Algeo.
Bill Algeo. I thought that was a great fight. Bill Algeo showed out, I think.
Late. Remember, this was late notice. Popped
Yeah,
out on late notice.
yeah. Bill Algeo showed out. I thought he looked game. He took a little bit of damage early on, but he was able to give it back to Ricardo Lamas, and we've seen him transition from it was a leg kick to a spinning body kick.
Man,
He caught Ricardo Lamas with a knee coming up the middle.
it was a good fight. That
It
was a
was,
good fight.
it was a good fight. I thought
I
his
didn't expect.
grappling was good.
Yeah, I didn't expect the striking to be like that. I thought Algeo. I think with someone with a, I think Algeo could be somebody with, if he had his full training camp, he could be a problem.
Yeah, and I think he looked big for featherweight too.
I think he's tall. He's really tall.
Yeah, he looked big for featherweight. Which again, I'm interested to see what Bill Algeo does next. I thought even with a loss, I thought he still had a lot of stock to him.
Yeah, he had a good performance.
I think his value has gone up more, and I want to see him fight next. And Ricardo Lamas, he talked about potential retirement, but I got to be honest with you, I don't want to see Ricardo Lamas hanging it up yet. I think I was impressed with Ricardo Lamas' performance last night.
I would like to see Lamas versus a guy like Jeremy Stevens.
Yeah,
That's a good fight. That's a good fight, right? We have these two perennial guys. They're not gatekeepers, right, by any means, because they'll destroy you on any given day. But
Yeah.
they fought bar burners in their last fight, right? Calvin Kattar fought Jeremy Stevens in his last fight, and that fight was just amazing.
Yeah.
Right? Jeremy, he had Kidder on the run for the first round, and in the second round, was able to hit him with an elbow, and Jeremy went down. But same thing with Lamas, right? Lamas loses some fights here and there, but Lamas, for the most part of his career, has been top five, top seven at least. So he's a guy who's been able to. He's submitted Cub Swanson, like the what do you call that? The resume of guys these two guys have beaten is impressive. So with that being said, guys like Josh Emmett can maybe fight. I don't know. Josh Emmett fought Ricardo Lamas already, but like Ricardo Lamas shouldn't hang it up just right away. But I could see him being done within the next 3 years.
Yeah, I can see that too. Or maybe even as soon as he may announce retirement this week. You know, but I just he's 38 years old, just like Robbie Lawler. But to me, seeing him last night, I was like, yeah, I think there's still a lot more he can do. And I think I would love to see him against the Jeremy Stevens, or maybe do Josh Emmett again, or maybe do Ryan Hall. But I think Ricardo Lamas still has it. Like him in the third round, he took some damage in the second round. Him in the third round, and seeing him dominate that third round, it's like, okay, there's still something there. He's still that Ricardo Lamas.
Lamas for me has always been a guy that you can't count him out of a fight. When he fought Max dominated him, right? But was there every single moment of the fight. Got hurt a little bit here and there, but was there. He caught Max a few times too, right? So look, Lamas is not a guy who he's not someone you could take lightly, is what I'm trying to say. He's not someone. So like, and him, I would like to actually see him fight Ryan Hall, right? I would like to see Ryan Hall tested in that way against a guy who does have great grappling, right? Because that's Ryan Hall's bread and butter is the grappling, and the striking has improved because he's a karate base. But against a guy like Lamas who mixes it so well together, I'd love to see that fight come to fruition.
And also has good jiu-jitsu as well. Who's also really good on the as well.
Grappling, wrestling, phenomenal. Jiu-jitsu, even better. This guy, and his striking is decent. He throws a lot of leg kicks. He was one of the other people in the featherweight division, in my opinion, who incorporated a lot of leg kicks earlier on in his career, as opposed to what everyone's catching on. So again, I'm excited, but with the times, I understand. He's been fighting for a while. All respect due to him, man. He's paid his dues. Just maybe make the money, get out. Do you think?
Yeah. Me personally, I would love to see him fight again, because I think, he still has a lot more left. Like I said,
it reminded you when he was capable.
Yes, it did.
It's good.
That third round, I was like, oh my God, it's the bully.
The bully, he used to be a problem. Yes. When he was leading up to the Aldo fight, he was a problem.
Yes, it was vintage. It was vintage Lamas, and I love seeing that out of him. Especially look at that second round, he was in trouble, and he came back strong in that third. Yes, just for my personal enjoyment, I would love to see Ricardo Lamas fight again against Jeremy Stevens, somebody that's ranked. What if he decides to hang it up? Hell of a career.
Hell of a career. All right, Tyrese. That concludes our Las Vegas 8 review. What did you say?
I was gonna say, what would you rate this card?
I did go to sleep a little bit with it. I don't usually say that to you, but I think it was a little bit with the Otto fight. Otto cracked him with a mean head kick. I was like, oh shit, Zach Otto's, you may not think he can strike, but this brother can strike. I'm gonna be generous and give it a B-, man.
Oh wow, see, you're being very generous. I was gonna give it a C.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a B-, maybe a C+. I don't know.
I'll give it a C+.
Yeah, I see.
There's nothing I'm gonna go back to, but I love seeing Ricardo Lamas in his fight. That Ricardo Lamas Bill Algeo fight was really good. Yeah. Other than that, Sean Brady, a prospect you should look out for. Who should be fighting somebody in the top 15.
He'll fight again before the end of the year. I promise you that.
Yeah, C+. C+.
All right, we agree on that. Look, we agree on that, Tyrese.
We agree on some things. Sometimes we don't agree on anything. But
listen, if we agreed on everything, would it be a show?
It'll be a dumb show.
Boring.
But our shows are dumb anyway. So I mean,
dumb or phenomenal? Phenomenal.
Depending on who you ask.
Fair enough.
All right, man. it was a good show. Episode 25. We finally got our episode numbers back. Episode 26 next week. I don't know who's fighting. Who is it? I think. Oh, it's Augustus Sakai versus Overeem. We'll see. That may be another C card. We'll see what happens. Other than that, guys, stay safe. Enjoy your Sunday. Like always, my name is Tyree Simon.
Elijah Jones.
This has been a special UFC Vegas 8 recap. Have a nice day, guys.
Later.